Hello, BookTube. Welcome back to Reading in the Dark. Byron here. You are looking at a shell of a person right now because I just filmed this video for, 20 minutes, and then realized when I thought, I wonder how long I've been filming, that I wasn't. So I'm doing it all over again because I love you so much. I'm gonna just get through this and be so good at it this time around. This video is going to be my 2018 in review, also my 2019 goals video. I just think it's so funny that I'm doing this over again because I wasn't recording. So I want to go through sort of like the numbers of my reading this year and then talk like my own, in terms of like what I read and what kinds of things I read and the readathons that I did and all that kind of stuff. And I'm also going to talk about something that seems to be a little taboo on the BookTube community, which is money. I'm going to talk money to you today. Just gonna have like honesty time about money and books and all of that. Because as we know, there is a ongoing discussion about BookTube and how it's consumerist in some ways due to book hauls and all that kind of stuff. And so I want to tackle that head on and talk about the money that I spent on books this year. 2018 was the year that I started my BookTube channel, obviously, and it was the year that I really committed to my reading for the first time. I'm wearing the same shirt that I wore in my very first video because I thought it would be nice and like cyclical and all that kind of thing. And I'm dramatic that way. So getting right into the numbers, in 2018, I read, or I should say I have read 58 books. Now, at the time that I'm filming this, I have still not started reading The Shuddering by Enya Ahlborn or Asymmetry by Lisa Halliday, and I'm hoping that I can get to them by the end of the year, which is just a couple of days away. If I do, then it'll be 60 books that I read, which is awesome because my goal, as you know, was only 52 books and I've read 58, so yay me. I read 15,571 pages this year. If I get through The Shuddering and Asymmetry, it should be 16,153. I don't know what that number really means because a lot of these books, most of these books were ebooks, and like, what are these imaginary Kindle pages anyway? They call them pages, and I don't know how they come up with that number, but among those books, there were 11 5-star books, 21 4-star books, 18 3-star books, and 8 2-star books. And I am very glad to announce that there were no 1-star books because I only give 1 star to a book if I think that in addition to being bad, it is like offensive or like in some way reprehensible and makes the world a terrible place. So luckily, because I chose well enough, there are no 1-star books in my my reading history this year. My average rating was 3.6. I read 38 ebooks, which will be 40 if I get through the next 2 that are on my TBR for the end of December, 11 physical books, and I listened to 9 audiobooks. Interesting. Those were mostly Star Trek books. The book haul this year. So this is interesting. So in 2018, I acquired, mostly by purchasing for myself, but some of them were gifts, 159 books. Of those 159 books, 119 were ebooks, 8 were audiobooks, 20 hardcovers, and 12 paperbacks. I got almost all of the ebooks from Amazon. I bought one of them at Kobo because I got a free book because I signed up on their website or something. And then I bought the paper books, from some of them from A-Books, some of them from Book Outlet, and all the audiobooks came from iTunes. Now, when you're discussing a book haul and you say you've bought or acquired 159 books in 1 year, it naturally leads you to a discussion of money, and I'm gonna get to that later on in the video. In terms of the genres that I read this year, I'm not gonna list all of them because some of them are just like, there's like one book in a genre, but I read 16 books that fall into the thriller/horror/mystery super genre. And I'm kind of combining genres there, but I think it's fair. And then I read 12 books that are Star Trek books, which is not surprising, although I think that number will be probably a lot smaller in the next year. I could be wrong. 9 books that are considered literary fiction, and 7 classics, and then the genres just get smaller and smaller numbers from there on. But I'm not surprised that I read 16 thriller horror mysteries because I did take part in both Thrillerathon and Spookathon this year, and I read 5 in Thrillerathon and 7 in Spookathon, that in addition to anything else that I felt like reading. The oldest book that I read in 2018 was Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, speaking of horror, which was originally published in 1818. And the newest book that I read was Heartbreaker by Claudia Day, which I purchased right around, like immediately after it was published on October 19th, 2018. The shortest book that I read, ironically, was Heart of Darkness by Joseph Conrad. Now, that's a novella. It's 75 pages of imaginary Kindle pages, and that's ironic because it certainly did not feel like the shortest anything. The runner-up as shortest book was also a novella, The Turn of the Screw by Henry James, at 103 imaginary Kindle pages. And once again, that did not feel short either. And I actually really enjoyed both of these, but it's amazing to me. I feel like my dog's going to knock over my glass. It's sort of amazing to me that they are actually the shortest things I read, because both of them are so dense and required so much brain. They were very dense and they did not feel short. But those are both novellas, and the shortest novel that I read in 2018 was The Lathe of Heaven by Ursula K. Le Guin, a fantastic book that I gave 4 stars to, and that was in 194 imaginary Kindle pages. That's really all there is to say about length. The next section that I want to talk about is representation. I want to talk about the content of these books, who wrote them, where they came from, and what they feature in terms of characters. And this is a very interesting conversation. I read 29 books by female authors. Assuming that I get through the shuttering and asymmetry, I will have read 31 books by female authors. Now, I read 30 books by male authors. It's really kind of evenly split, which is kind of cool, between male and female for me. In terms of diverse authors, however, I did not do so well. Now, this term is interesting. Diverse authors. What exactly does that mean? We're talking about race? Are we talking about skin color? Are we talking about religion? Are we talking about sexual orientation? There are a bunch of different criteria that you could base your judgment that someone is a diverse author on. And it's a very interesting conversation. And I actually read a really interesting article today written by an author, and I forget who, asking what the hell is a diverse author. Because of course, one individual cannot be in and of themselves diverse, but I understand what it means. That said, I really have no business being a turd about this, because I didn't read very many. All I know is that I looked at my list and I thought, well, I need to do a lot better. I have a lot of books in my TBR that were written by authors of color, and by women and by queer authors, and so I'm looking forward to reading those, and I'm sure that this number is going to be a lot better in 2019. And it's really kind of something that could go in its own video, and I may make that video in the future, but suffice to say, I plan on reading more. One of the things I will be reading is New Suns, which is the anthology of science fiction and fantasy short stories by authors of color that I pre-ordered and will be arriving in, I think, March. Now, in terms of books that contain LGBTQIA themes, I actually read 4. Now, that's not a great number, but it's more than I thought it would be, and really significantly to me. And if you're a geek or if you're a Star Trek fan, you will appreciate this as well. One of those books was Pathways by Jerry Taylor. There's a couple of short stories in here, but one in particular that include gay characters and gay romance. And I was frankly really surprised to see that, and this book was published in the 90s, so that's pretty awesome. And even as a Star Trek fan, that was the first time I ever encountered a gay character in the Star Trek universe, which is really sad, but cool. And kudos to Jerry Taylor, and so I just wanted to put that shout out in there because I thought that was really cool, and I will always be grateful to her for that. So now we come to the very controversial, maybe, I don't know. Now we get to the dicey part of the video. I'm gonna talk about money to y'all. I wanted to do this, and the reason I wanted to do this, there is a perception that BookTube is a very consumerist community because we do book hauls and we like to show off all of these books that we acquire. People buy way more books in a year than they could possibly read, 159. I can't possibly read that many books in one year. There's nothing wrong with having an anti-library, which is the term that I recently learned for a collection of books that you haven't read yet. It's a good thing. That said, I do think I bought too many books this year, and I didn't read all of those books. In fact, I read less than half of them. So I want to talk about the number of dollars that I spent on books in order to maybe offer comfort to some of you that are watching, because I know one person left a comment on one of my videos saying that they understood me feeling like I bought too many books because they themselves overdrew their bank account a couple of times in one year buying too many books. And I understand. So let me just let it all hang out, because you know what? I'm willing to do that. In 2018, I spent $841.20 on books. That averages out to $5.43 per book. And that averages out to about $70 a month. That is way higher than I thought it was going to be. I thought, because I read almost all ebooks, and I'm a subscriber to these email lists where they send out, when books are on sale for crazy insulting prices, like $1 or $3 or $4. I thought that it would be a lot less than that. I spent an average of $70 a month on books, and that's crazy to me. $841, what did I get out of that? So of the books that I purchased for $841, I read $359 worth of them. So now let's think about this. My TBR is currently sitting at 116 books. Taking into account the books that I still haven't read, the amount of money that I spent on books I didn't read, was $482. So that's not wasted money. Books aren't going to go bad, but there is also something to be said for being a little bit more frugal, and I guess that's a goal of mine for 2019. I could have not purchased any of those books that comprised that $482, and I'd still have had all of the reading experiences this year that I had. So that's interesting. Food for thought. Okay, are you feeling stressed out? Don't. We're done talking about money. Let's move on to talking about how I did with my reading. My best month in 2019 for reading was August. In August, I read 10 books. 10 books read, and the reason I think that happened is that I took part in 2 Readathons in August. One was Booktubeathon and the other was Thrillerathon. Okay, now that is above what my goal for 2019 is, which I'll get to later. The worst month I had, well, this is an interesting question, because I could say November, because in November I didn't read anything at all. However, I'm not going to count that because in November I was choosing to take a break. The worst month that I had when I was trying to read in 2018 was September. That really is because of Contemporaryathon. I took part in Contemporaryathon and I chose Blindness by Jose Saramago as the first book that I was going to read, and I hated it, basically. It took me the entire readathon to finish the book. In fact, I don't even think I finished the book until the readathon was over. So in September, I read only 2 books. I took part in 4 readathons in 2018. The first was Booktubeathon, hosted by Ariel Bissett. This ran from July 30th to August 5th, and I read 4.5 of the 7 books that I chose for the challenges for that readathon during the time of Booktubeathon, and then I finished the ones that I hadn't gotten to yet later. So I did finish them all, but I only finished 4.5 of the 7 within the allotted time frame. The next readathon that I took part in was Thrillerathon, which took place between August 20th and August 26th. I read 3 of the 5 books that I chose for that, and again, although I didn't finish all of them during the allotted time, I did finish the books eventually. The next readathon was Contemporaryathon. Contemporaryathon took place between September 17th and 23rd, and I only read 1 of the 5 books. And I really kind of blame Blindness by Jose Saramago, but then I should also blame my own stubbornness for not putting it down. So that did not go well. The last readathon that I took part in was Spookathon, and this was sort of like a Halloween-y readathon that took place between October 15th and 21st. I read 7 books in 7 days. I vlogged each of those 7 days, and I basically killed it and had a wonderful time, and that's probably because I love scary things and I love Halloween. But I think I've learned a lesson that if I get to a point where I'm not enjoying a book that I'm reading, I need to put it down, otherwise I'm gonna fail the readathon. So the last thing I wanna talk about is actually this. I want to talk about my channel. I want to talk about Reading in the Dark. So in 2018, I started this channel, and it went through many changes, aesthetically mostly, and now I'm starting to find a rhythm, I think, and we are maybe hitting something of a stride. I have posted, counting this video, I will have posted 44 videos in 2018. It seems like I just started this channel yesterday, and I can't believe I've posted that many videos. That's amazing. And that comprises 11 hours, 5 minutes, and 29 seconds of content that I have posted. And again, that does not count this video. My channel has been sort of changing and growing and, you know, moving along in fits and starts, and I've taken breaks and I've come back and I have sort of floundered a little bit and flailed around to try to find my groove. Now, in the time that I've had my channel, I went from 0 subscribers to my current number, which is 58 subscribers. I am thrilled with that number. My goal really was to see if I could maybe hit 50 subscribers by the end of the year. And then I suddenly, I have gained 20 subscribers in the last month alone. I feel good about it. I feel good about the fact that I'm doing it, and I know for an actual fact that running this booktube channel has had a really positive impact on my reading. It has encouraged me to keep going. It's sort of amazing to look back and think about how much of a non-reader I was before I started managing this channel. It has encouraged me to branch out and try reading different styles of books than I maybe ever would have considered before, and it has introduced me to this whole community of readers on the internet and not just on YouTube, and that's really, really awesome. Now it's time to think about 2019, and I have so many goals, so many plans, and so many ideas. So first up, let's just get the cat out of the bag and talk about the big one, and that is money. I want to spend less money in 2019 because I now have that anti-library of books that I have yet to read, and I need to be culling my TBRs from that. What I plan on doing in 2019, I'm going to be more transparent about how much money I spend. And that's going to be for your benefit, but it's also going to be for my own benefit. I think something that I want to do is that when I do a book haul, I think I'm going to mention how much money I paid for the book. And I think that's relevant because I want to hold myself accountable, be transparent about that with all of you. For instance, when I read Woman in the Window, it was a brand new, very popular new release. However, I only paid $4 for it because it was on sale. And I'm kind of glad because it was a 3-star read for me. I don't think I would have purchased it otherwise. So I don't know, I sort of feel like that information is relevant. But beyond the book buying, one habit that I want to address, which is sort of ironic on a channel called Reading in the Dark, is that I don't want to be staying up until 5 or 6 in the morning anymore. Let's be honest, going to bed at 3 is late enough. So I am going to try and make sure that I am going to sleep, turning off the lights, and putting away the books, and putting away the YouTube by 3 a.m. Now that's not a lofty goal. My next goal in terms of my reading habits is to read every single day, even if it's just 10 or 15 minutes. Because there are days that I don't read at all because I'm caught up in other things, and I know why that happens, but I think that it would make a difference in my reading and in my progress if I were to just read something every day. I'm going to continue and try to put up 2 videos per week, which should, in theory, mean that I'll be posting 104 videos in 2019. So I'm going to give myself a tiny bit of a break and just say my goal is to post 100 videos in 2019. I also want to post more book reviews. I have 2 book reviews that I'm currently working on that'll be posted soon. And then I also want to do more book tags. I really enjoy book tags. I did 1 book tag this year. It was the end of the year book tag. I had a lot of fun doing it. I got a good response. Now, in terms of my reading in 2019, one thing I would really like to do is to get to all of the books that I currently have on what I call my shelf of shame. This is a shelf that I created that contains all of the books that I was supposed to have read in high school that I faked my way through and didn't actually read, and some of the books that most people read in high school that I missed out on because I moved. Like things like To Kill a Mockingbird and Fahrenheit 451 and The Great Gatsby. It's high time that I be able to say that I have read To Kill a Mockingbird, so I'm going to try and get through this list. That includes The Grapes of Wrath and like all kinds of things. One of the things that was on there was Heart of Darkness, so I did that in 2018. Another goal that I have mentioned before is to read more fantasy in 2019, and I'm going to read the Harry Potter series. I'm going to read the Harry Potter series. I promise I'm going to, and I'm going to read Game of Thrones, or I'm going to start. So those are, genre goals. Obviously, I want to whittle down my TBR. Like it wouldn't be a booktube video if it didn't have a person in front of a camera saying that they needed to read their TBR and lower the number of books they have sitting on their shelves. So of course I want to do that. I've toyed with the idea of doing a TBR jar. What I will do is have 2 tennis balls, one color and one another color, or have one that has some sort of distinguishing mark on it. Let's say I pull 2 books out of the TBR jar, assign one of them to one tennis ball and the other one to the other tennis ball, and throw both tennis balls at the same time for Philip. And what always happens is he gets a little stressed out trying to figure out which one to bring back, but he always chooses one and brings it back. So what will happen is my dog is going to choose my next read for me, and I think it's just ridiculous enough to work. I'm sure that would probably be a hit with the crowd because Philip is cute. I also want to take part in the Book Riot #ReadHarder Reading Challenge. I follow Rincey Reads on BookTube. And she also works for Book Riot, and they create a 24 reading challenge every year called Read Harder. It includes things like read a book by a deaf author, or read a book by a transgender author, or from an author from, Pakistan, or, whatever, just things like that. And there's 24 challenges. I've started to go through the list and I have good ideas for a lot of them. And I haven't gone through all of them yet because I think what I'm going to do is go through that list live in a video and look at it and try to fill a tentative Read Harder Challenge TBR at some point. And on that topic, I do want to do a better job of reading works by more diverse authors, more works by LGBTQIA authors, topics and characters, inclusion, and all that representation matters to me. And then in terms of readathons, I do want to take part in basically all of the readathons that I took part in last year. So I will take part in Booktubeathon, although I think it's now called Rush, the Reading Rush. I'm going to take part in Contemporaryathon as well. Again, I think there's one in February coming up. I'll take part in Thrillerathon if it happens, and Spookathon for sure because I had a ball doing it. There's something called the New Year's-athon that is starting obviously very soon from January 1st. To January 7th, and I'm not totally decided if I'm going to take part in that, but I may because I like the idea of it. I'd like to take part in as many readathons as possible. I don't know if I could do one every month, but I wouldn't be opposed to it because my reading definitely benefits. Readathons are going to be a big part of my reading in 2019, and I think it's gonna be awesome, and I'm excited for it. Which brings me to the biggest goal of all for 2019, the one that I'm most nervous about, but that I am also tentatively optimistic about. This year, I was finding my groove as a reader, and I was also discovering the joy of readathons. And I think I'm a more productive reader now than I was. So my goal is kind of lofty, but I think it's attainable. And after doing the math and thinking about 2 books a week, my goal for now that I am going to set on my Goodreads as soon as they put the page up is 100 books read in 2019. And although I think this is a goal there's a really good chance I won't quite meet, I'm okay with that because I think it's called challenge for a reason. I can read that much. I haven't done it before, but I can. I know I can because of months like August when I read 10 books instead of the 8 that it would take. Yeah, I'm gonna reassess this goal on July 1st, but yeah, I'm going to really push myself, do the readathons, do the vlogging, do the things. So just to recap, my goals for 2019, read 100 books, spend my money more wisely and basically buy less books. I wanna go to bed at night so that there's no chance of seeing the sun come up before I go to sleep. Read every day, even if it's just 5-10 minutes. I wanna whittle down my TBR, read a lot more books by authors of color and diverse authors. Those are my goals for 2019. I feel really good about them. I love the idea of starting with a fresh slate, and I will be here, I promise you. I am not gonna go away. I'm loving having the interaction with you guys when you leave comments and like my posts and whatnot and like talking back and forth. And I got to have like a little conversation with Susan Henderson. Come on, that's awesome. And so I'm really looking forward to my reading, and I'm really looking forward to where this channel is gonna go in the next year. And I'm super grateful for all of you. So here's to you guys. Thank you for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for interacting and engaging with everything that I'm posting and being here. I hope you all have a wonderful New Year's Eve, a wonderful New Year's Day. I hope we all have a wonderful reading year in 2019. And until next time, which is going to be very soon because I'm posting a TBR pretty much tomorrow, if not the next day, I will be here in the dark reading. Bye, guys.